Hello everyone, what is going on? Raven here. Welcome back to the channel. Yesterday was ASMR video about a murder. Well, today, my dear lovely friends, companions, subscribers, family members, we are going to be talking about a case I mentioned in that video. It's called the Alphabet Murders, also known as the Double Initial Murders. It was an unsolved series of child murders that occurred between 1971 and 1973 in Rochester, New York, or near there. Now, why is it called the Alphabet Murders? Well, here's why. Each child's name, the first letter of their first name and the first letter of their last name were the same. Carmen Colón, Wanda Walkowicz, Maenza are the three that we're mentioning here today. Now, I will mention a little bit, like Carmen and Wanda disappeared when they were trying to return home from an errand. And unfortunately, all three of these girls were essayed and they were strangled. Now, in Carmen and Wanda's case, the vehicle appears to be the same color, like a brownish. And in Michelle's case, it appears to be more tan. So could it be that it was tan all along, or maybe it was a light brown? Who knows? I'm not going to go into all the details because originally I was making this video and I said, oh, I'm just going to make the whole video as the information is here. It is very sad to read this. Like, I don't want to read through this whole thing again. I read up the whole thing and I thought it would be a little too much. So basically what happened is each child was reported missing by their family member later that evening. And, it was basically a family member. Now, Carmen was found unclothed from the lower half of her body, which is very sad to see that a poor 10-year-old girl was found like that. Two teenage boys actually found her partially nude body not far from Interstate 490. Now, Interstate 490 is going to be mentioned again, so it is said that in the autopsy, not only was this poor girl essayed or raped, that's usually how people on TikTok would say it, she had suffered a fracture to her skull and a fracture of her vertebra before she was manually strangled. And she was scratched by fingernails. Now, obviously, a reward for $2,500 for information leading to the arrest of her murderer. Numerous businesses and residents added private donations to the reward fund and exceeded $6,000. Police interrogated several suspects. All were cleared. So, they couldn't prove who did it. And it's very sad. In Wanda's case, it was the exact same similar scenario where she was running an errand. Now, Carmen was trying to pick up a prescription from a pharmacy. Wanda was bringing home groceries that she had been instructed to buy by her mother. Wanda was 11 years old. On April 2nd, 1973, she went missing at around 5 p.m. So 3 hours later, her mother reported her missing. They did an extensive, intensive search to locate her. Almost 50 detectives searched several square miles. Could not find her. Her fully clothed body was found by police at 10:15 a.m. the following day. She was discarded at the base of a hillside along Access Road, State Route 104. I don't know why I said the other one would be mentioned again. I actually don't think it is. Don't listen to me, okay? 490, I-90, whatever. It's very depressing to hear that these 3 girls' murders, as far as I know, have still never been solved. Autopsy revealed that she was essayed, strangled from behind with a ligature, most likely a belt. She had several defensive wounds, indicating that she fought for her life. She fought her attacker. Her body was redressed after her death. They found traces of semen and pubic hair on her body. Strands of white cat fur were found upon clothing. Her family did not own a pet with white cat fur. So does that mean they didn't have a cat? Or they just didn't have a cat with white fur? The cat is what's important, because the cat ties Wanda's case to a girl named Michelle Maenza's case. November 26, 1973, 11-year-old Michelle was reported missing by her mother Carolyn after she failed to return home from school. So, she was last seen by her classmates at approximately 3:20 p.m. walking alone en route to a shopping plaza close to her school. She had the intention of retrieving a purse her mother had left inside a store within the plaza earlier that day. 10 minutes later, they witnessed her sitting in the passenger seat of a beige or tan vehicle traveling at high speed on Anchorman Street before turning on Webster Avenue. This witness said that the child had been weeping. Now, if a vehicle is driving high speed, how are you going to see if a child is weeping? I think that's a little suspicious, but obviously I was not there. I wasn't even alive yet. Now, a motorist observed a man standing by a large beige or tan vehicle with a flat tire at 5:30 p.m. It was parked alongside Route 350 in the town Walworth. He was holding the girl strongly by her wrist. Now, the motorist stopped and offered assistance, like a good individual would do. He deliberately grabbed the girl and pushed her behind him, also obscuring his license plate from the motorist's view, and stared in his direction with such a menacing expression that the motorist had felt compelled to drive away. I wonder what would have happened if the motorist did not leave and asked if the little girl was okay. He probably would have saved her life. I'm sure that motorist feels very guilty about that. Her body was found fully clothed at 10:30 a.m. on November 28th. She was lying face down in a ditch alongside a rural road in Macedon, approximately 15 miles from Rochester. Autopsy revealed, in addition to having extensive blunt force trauma to her body, she was essayed, strangled to death from behind with a ligature, possibly a thin rope. Numerous strands of white cat fur were discovered upon her clothing. Investigators were able to retrieve a partial palm print from her neck, traces of semen upon her body and underwear. And obviously it was known that she was essayed. Now, there was an analysis that made a description of what this person would look like, this man. He was labeled as a Caucasian man with dark hair, aged between 25 and 35. He was approximately 6 feet, about 165 pounds. And I don't know how they would know that. But apparently, approximately 1 hour before her murder, this was what she was seen with. Someone actually saw this. And actually, the man bought her food because the contents inside her stomach revealed traces of hamburger and onions, which was consumed approximately an hour before her death. All 3 of these young, innocent girls were laid to rest in Rochester's Holy Sepulchre Cemetery. It's a Catholic cemetery in Rochester, New York. The cemetery itself is across Lake Avenue from Riverside Cemetery. So there's two cemeteries like right across the street from each other. Now, at Carmen's funeral, it was conducted on November 22nd. Her funeral mass was attended by 200 mourners. Wanda was laid to rest on April 6th, 1973. She was laid to rest in a small white gold casket, following a service officiated by the Reverend Benedict Eman. Michelle's funeral was held at Corpus Christi Church on December 1st, 1973. Her open casket funeral service was attended by scores of mourners. At the conclusion of her service, her father, Christopher, stated to other mourners she was a sweet little girl. She didn't fight much. Which, I don't know why her father said that she didn't fight. We don't know what happened. You know what I mean? We don't know if she tried to fight or not. He might have just overpowered her. So, let's see what happens. The investigation, had such intense publicity. Investigators released a composite drawing of the individual seen with the child by numerous witnesses. Now, this is following the murder of Michelle. They installed a telephone hotline exclusively devoted to the manhunt for the perpetrator, whom they strongly suspected had committed all three murders. A reward was again offered for information leading to the arrest of the perpetrator. No credible suspect was located. Investigators interrogated more than 800 potential suspects in relation to the Alphabet murders. The perpetrator or perpetrators were never caught. The cases remain unsolved. This is extremely upsetting. Now we're going to talk about, I'm going to mention some of the suspects. And unfortunately, one is related to one of the victims. So we're going to go with that one first. Miguel Colón. Now this is in the case of Carmen. Miguel, it was a strong suspect. This is her uncle, by the way. Was the brother of her father, Justiniano. Following the separation of, the parents, he had formed a relationship with her mother, becoming known as Uncle Miguel. Typically on occasions, she would walk to the pharmacy to collect family prescriptions. She had been accompanied by her grandfather Felix. Although, on the date of her disappearance, she had pleaded with her grandparents to be allowed to walk to the pharmacy unaccompanied. Her uncle is known to have purchased a car weeks prior to the abduction, matching the vehicle seen by eyewitnesses reversing upon Interstate 490 in pursuit of the child. They did conduct a search of his vehicle shortly after her murder, discovering that the interior and exterior of the car had been extensively cleaned. The trunk had been washed with a strong cleaning solution. Questioning of the dealership, which had recently sold the vehicle to Miguel, revealed the trunk had been washed with a detergent prior to sale. Moreover, a doll belonging to the child was found in his car. Although the relatives informed investigators she had frequently traveled in Miguel's vehicle, Miguel left a toy inside his car. 2 days after the death of his niece, Miguel had informed him of his intention to leave the country as he had done something wrong in Rochester. He relocated to Puerto Rico just 4 days after the murders of his niece. Investigators did travel to San Juan to question him in March of 1972, which police intentions, published articles, resulting in Miguel fleeing from authorities. He surrendered to authorities on March 26 and agreed to be extradited back to Rochester to face questioning. He was unable to provide a credible alibi for his movements on the date of his niece's murder, and no individual could be located to corroborate his claims regarding his whereabouts. Despite strong circumstantial evidence, no physical evidence was located at the crime scene or within his vehicle to link him to the murder. He committed suicide in 1991 at the age of 44 following an incident of domestic violence in which he shot and wounded both his wife and his brother. Now, if that doesn't say I'm guilty, I don't know. I think sometimes cops will use circumstantial evidence to at least try to get someone in behind bars. From other cases that I've read before. Now, I can't say that, all cops do that. Obviously, cops for this case did not do that. Another individual considered to be a strong suspect in the murders was 25-year-old Rochester firefighter named Dennis Termini. He's a firefighter, but he was a prolific serial offender known as a garage rapist who is known to have committed a minimum of 14 rapes of teenage girls and young women between 71 and 73. He was also known to have a beige vehicle similar to the description of the vehicle observed in some of the abductions. He's known to have lived at an address on Bach Street, which is close to the area of Michelle. 5 weeks after the death of the final victim, Michelle, Dennis is known to have attempted to abduct a teenage girl at gunpoint. Although he fled the scene while the teenager refused to cease screaming, he abducted another potential victim, although on this occasion he was pursued by police. He committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. Now they did forensic examination of his vehicle. They found traces of white cat fur upon the upholstery. In 2007, his body was exhumed to obtain a DNA sample for comparison with the semen samples recovered from the girl's body. This is Wanda's body we're talking about now. The results of the test confirmed he was not responsible, at least for part of it. Do you guys kind of see what's happening here? I think a bunch of these guys got together and did this together. Kenneth Bianchi was also a suspect. He was, like I said, he was the one I did a video on for yesterday. He went after young girls, 10 years old at the youngest, and even 12-year-olds up to 28-year-olds. He was never charged with these murders. He was repeatedly attempted to have investigators officially clear him of suspicion. However, while residing in Rochester, he is known to have driven a vehicle of the same color and model. But just because someone has the same color and model of the vehicle, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the one that did it. I don't think Kenneth Bianchi did this. Of course, he could have been part of it. I mean, if they never took his DNA to clear him, we will never know. Joseph Naso, a 77-year-old man, was arrested in Nevada for the murders of 4 women in California between 77 and 94. All of whom are believed to have been prostitutes. Each with the surname began the same letter as that of her first name. This is very much like the alphabet murders. He was a New York native who had lived in Rochester in the early 70s and was known to have regularly traveled between New York and California. He was described by authorities as a person of interest in the alphabet murders, though DNA testing confirmed that he is not a match from the semen samples recovered from the body of Wanda Walkowicz. He was brought to trial on June 18th, charged with the murder of California alphabet murder victims, with the murder of the 4. Which is weird, because there's only 3. So who's the 4th one? Now, they could have just typed 4 instead of 3. He was unanimously convicted of each murder, and he was sentenced to death. Now, if his DNA proved he was not the one, I don't know why they tried to charge him. Okay, so they charged him with the 4 from California, the alphabet murders from California, not the one from New York. Now, it was 3 in New York. It is 4 in California. I will probably do a video about the California one in the future. But as of right now, I'm going to leave this here. What do y'all think of this video today? I think it's really sad, honestly. I mean, how could anyone literally do that, you know? Who do you think was the killer? Do you think, like I am thinking, that it was kind of a mixture of it all? Like, it could have been Miguel that killed his niece. Could have been Dennis who went after the other 2. You know, because, I mean, it's hard to say. So no physical evidence really puts any of these 3 as the one that did it. Or any of these 4 suspects. I'm sorry, the 4 of them. But, you know, and it doesn't help that 2 of the suspects, at the very minimum, are dead. Miguel committed suicide. Dennis committed suicide. You know, Joseph was sentenced to death. So Kenneth Bianchi is the only one still alive. I don't know. He could have done all that on his own first, and then went with his cousin after. Like, it could. Who knows? They were all within the time frame, but there's no evidence. The only one that was proven that has no official clear suspicion is Kenneth Bianchi, and that is because he refused to give his DNA. Does that mean he's guilty? I think it sounds like. Now this is just my thoughts. I think they all kind of work together. All 4 of these guys. Now, since 3 of them were considered not guilty based on DNA, Dennis had the white cat fur. So Dennis could have easily worked with the 3 of them, or at least the 2 of them, Kenneth and Miguel. Or Miguel would have done that on his own, because Miguel's niece was the only one that did not have the cat hair. So what I think is Miguel accidentally killed his niece Carmen, or he got all messed up in the head, forced himself on his niece, killed her, felt bad, killed himself. I think Dennis kidnapped the other 2, and I think Kenneth Bianchi helped. I could be wrong. We will never know the truth. That is the unfortunate thing. I don't think Joseph Naso did any of that. I think because he's been doing a lot of this later on in California, but that doesn't mean he didn't start, in Rochester. It doesn't mean anything. He was a native to New York. So, let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section down below. And I will see you all next time. Bye!